name is Nina Ellis, Dr. Nina Ellis, and I'm an assistant professor of English and comparative literature and creative writing here at a university in Egypt. I finished my PhD at Cambridge a year ago, and one of you asked me for some tips on productivity and writing as a PhD and master's student, and I think as a student in general. So I thought I'd share some of the things that worked for me here. I have 3 main tips. Number 1, regularity. And by regularity, I mean habit. I think that when you're doing a PhD in particular, but also a master's, your thesis can seem so daunting that you put it off and you put it off and you think, oh, I'm not ready to start writing it yet. I have more research to do. I need to review the state of the art. And I would recommend ignoring those feelings. Even if you feel like you don't know anything at all about your topic yet and you feel totally unworthy of beginning your thesis, just start writing in a regular way as a habit. Nothing, literally nothing, that I wrote in the first year of my PhD made it into the thesis. But on every weekday, I got up, and because I work better in the early mornings, I started writing at 6 a.m. and I wrote for 3 hours. Even though what I produced during that time didn't end up actually being useful for my PhD, literally, in that it wasn't incorporated into the text, it was really useful in that it got me into the habit of writing and of sitting in that discomfort that comes from feeling like you're not quite ready to declaim about some topic yet or to draw conclusions yet. I honestly think that that's one of the best things I did as a PhD student, just getting myself into the habit of writing every day, every weekday. I had weekends off, and I recommend having weekends off and holidays and everything else. But pick a time every day that you find is well suited to you as a writer. For me, that was 6 o'clock in the morning. For you, it might be 6 o'clock in the evening or midnight or whatever, and hold yourself accountable. Do it, write every day. And even if what you're writing is sort of just a response or a conversation or a digest of the articles that you're reading, even if this writing is almost like a diary and isn't directed at a particular chapter of your PhD thesis or your master's thesis, it will be useful, and then it will teach you to push past that block that you get when you feel like you can't write about something yet because you're not good enough and you don't know enough. So that's my first tip: regularity, habit, writing at the same time every day. Tip number 2, accountability. If you decide on a time that you're going to write every day, you actually have to do it. And something that worked really well for me, as many of you know from my TikTok and my Instagram, is that I started doing time lapses on my phone of myself writing. And sometimes I would put a little clock out so you could see the hours change and pass, and so that I could prove to myself, and then eventually when I got followers, to my followers, that I was doing the work. Of course, not everybody's going to want to do time lapses and post them on the internet. I know that's a bit of a weird thing to do, perhaps, but it worked for me, and you might find another way of holding yourself accountable. For instance, during COVID, I was part of a group where we would get on a Zoom call together and just write for a certain number of hours. So you could do that with a group of trusted friends, or you might have enough discipline, which I clearly don't, to hold yourself accountable yourself and to keep those appointments with yourself without recording yourself or joining a Zoom call or anything. The key is whatever it takes, whether it's external approval through posting videos on the internet of yourself writing or group accountability by joining a Zoom call, the important thing is that you keep those appointments. So tip number 2 is accountability. Hold yourself accountable, whatever that takes. And then my third tip, tip number 3, is community. After you've written, even if what you've written is absolute nonsense, find someone who you're comfortable sharing that work with and exchanging work with, because they might see things in your writing that you don't. During that first year of my PhD, when I was writing every day, holding myself accountable by doing time lapses, but not producing anything remotely useful for my PhD, I exchanged work with a PhD colleague who would occasionally say to me, oh, I really like this particular sentence, and I think you could turn that into an article. And actually I did. Even though the work I was doing didn't make it into the PhD, it made it into my first academic article, which definitely helped me to get this first job as an assistant professor and to set the ball rolling in terms of academic publishing. It's also just nice to have people to share your work with, so I really recommend starting a little group, especially because PhDs can be lonely. In the humanities most of all, where you're often writing alone in a room, researching alone in a library, you're not in a lab, you're not collaborating in that obvious way. So give yourself opportunities for collaboration. Set up exchanges with PhD colleagues. Look beyond your university to find other PhD students who are working on topics similar to your own. During my PhD, I was the only person at Cambridge writing a biography as a thesis. And so I looked beyond Cambridge to Yale, to Queen Mary, and to other universities in the UK for other PhD students writing biographies, and we formed a group called the PhD Biographers Research Network. And it was so nice because we met every month and shared what we'd been working on and gave each other this sense that we were not alone, because we weren't. And it was also great because we became friends, started working together, and convened a panel at an academic conference, and then used our findings for that panel and our papers to put together a special issue of an academic journal, which also definitely helped me to get this job. So my 3 tips are: number 1, regularity. Choose a time that works for you to write, and write every day, even if what you're writing is rubbish. Number 2, accountability. Find a way of holding yourself accountable, whether that's doing time lapses and posting them on the internet, setting up a Zoom room where you and friends write together, going to the library with people, old school, but it totally works, or just holding yourself accountable on your own because you have that force of will, which I admire. And then number 3, community. Find people to share your work with, support them, tell them what you like about their work, tell them where you think it could go, and they'll do the same for you. And you'll emerge with friendships as well as collaborators. I highly, highly recommend. I hope this is helpful, and thank you so much for watching. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok. You can read my Substack, which is Looking for Lucia, or you can just look at my website to learn more about my work. And I'll check in again next week, so let me know what you'd like me to talk about. Bye!